Why, hello and good afternoon. How the hell are you? Greetings and salutations. I hope everything's going your way. So, I was out here, and I was just tinkering around the yard for the last few days, trying to get a little bit of exercise. And, it's very important to get up and be active. Now, I don't like traditional exercise, like using equipment and weights. Mindlessly lifting something over and over again, it's just not my idea of a good time. So what I do, I do like I work on cars. I practice carpentry. I get up and walk around the woods, things of that nature. Because like I said, that's so boring. Lift, lift, lift. That is so boring. Here. Anyways, if you like it, keep liking it. What the hell do I know? That's you. But as for me, it's not for me. So I was something I really like to do is frame. And I like to frame like buildings and things of that nature. Now, I never done it professionally, but the things I built, they still stand. I think they're overbuilt, if anything. Um, like usually people space floor joists 16 inches on center. I spaced everything from wall studs to floor joists 12 inches on center. So everything basically connected perfectly. And I think that makes a building a lot stronger than wall studs being different spacing, joists being different spacing, things of that nature. And so when I was tinkering around out here, just screwing around with the hammer and some nails, I remembered something because I hadn't done it in a long time. The thing I don't like about like framing is everything is basically a square. Even your roof, even though it looks like it's at an angle, it really is a square, just with some elaborate notches in the rafters, or the trusses are engineered a certain way with some elaborate cuts, which aren't so elaborate, but they could be considered that in comparison to the rest of the house. That's where your roof framing is, where essentially, hey dog, go on, you making noise, go on, go. Come right over here and start digging a house in the ground. Girl, I'm talking to the camera. She mad. She mad. I should get over it, sniffing her ass now. But I digress back to my point. The roof framing has like the most elaborate cuts and framing if you're building a simple structure, right? What's a simple structure? Like a shed or something? Maybe even a one-story house that's built very simply. None of this like elaborate make the house look like a L from above and all that stuff. I'm talking about a simple box with a roof on it. But the thing is, when I'm building those squares, my OCD likes to turn on. And I know I overdo it, but whatever. Get nervous twitch or something. And so I came up with, and I racked my brain like there must be a way to to get these lines accurate every time. And I scoured the internet. I Googled, I researched, I looked for a product, not for picture frames, not for like fine woodworking, but for framing that would make things line up a lot quicker. Now, that's just to assemble the frame and stuff. It's not to make a square. This is like an assembly tool that I'm working on. And it's not really for making sure things are square. You have to make sure things are square. I square it after I get the rim joists in their shape, and then I check for square, and then when I've got the joists in, I check for square again. And the same thing on a wall. When you get that frame of that wall built, you check for square. put it together, check for square again. When you go to raise it up, a lot of people put the sheathing on it already before they raise it up. And they might cut the windows out before. They probably wait, because that sheathing, way it's connected, holds it all together, it helps hold it square. If you wait to put the sheathing on it, say you don't have enough manpower for it, you would wait to put the sheathing on, because that wall's going to be heavy. Now, they make jacks for that, which I usually do things alone. I've never really been like a team player, right? But that's okay, because that's what ingenuity comes in, right? Occasionally I've had some help doing something, but a lot of times it's just me going solo at something. And it's peaceful that way, right? It's seldom you get a good helper. Who's a good helper? Someone who can hold the light, right? Someone who can hold something right. Someone who gets in tune with how you're working, because you're leading and they're just following. And you don't have to tell them every 5 seconds. After a little while, they get used to how things are done. You want to show them some patience and everything. Sometimes you don't get a choice, so you kind of got to, but whatever. Somebody who gets in the flow with you, and somebody who doesn't, like, who knows how to work intuitively with you. And somebody who's not trying to take over your project from you and tell you what to do. Those are the most annoying ones. I don't think anybody likes those people helping them at all. I think that, they want some help. They don't want a manager, right? They don't want a supervisor. Like, hey, I'm building something. You want to help? Yeah, and then they would come over and like 10 minutes in, they start telling you how to do everything. Nobody wants that, okay? Fucking the time to use that skill is when that person that invited you over or you're working with is stumped and you have the answer. Then you go, hey, I've got an idea. And then you help them. And over time, this is a self-help program too, so here's some self-help before I show you what I'm working on. And over time, you build a relationship where you would probably be more receptive to hearing what that person has to share with you. But if that person just comes over there and they just start telling you this and that, you turn it off. Nobody wants to put up with that. Besides, that kind of breeds laziness in people if they start to go, that is a good idea, right? And then they just start letting the person tell them what to do. They don't. Best way, if you know how to do something, is to just come tag along and hang out and wait until there's a problem, and then you step forward with the solution. And that makes it a easier environment, and everybody's a lot happier working like that, I think. Because people, they like to be challenged a little bit, and when they come into a problem, they want to think and they want to experience that challenge so they can grow. That's natural. And when someone just interlopes and starts, you don't never get that point. And some people really, really, really want to exercise that. So they need to be left alone to fail and figure it out and try again. That ain't what I'm here to talk about today. So back to my point is that I realize the part I really don't like is not the squaring part when I say this, not making sure, that's easy. It's assembling the corners together. It's assembling that outer box, that outer square or rectangle, whatever it is. It can be an octagon or a hexagon, but that's not the point. The thing I really don't like, that's just, to me, is assembling those corners. Assembling those corners. Parts I like is taking the frame and making marks on everything and setting it all up. I like stuff like that. I like the math part too. I like having to figure all that stuff out. But the part I really don't like is assembling corners. And why is that? Because on a corner, everything from the top of the joist, the rim joist, to the sides of them need to be square. They need to be flush with each other. They need to be flat and flush. And one obstacle to that is that when you buy lumber from a lumber yard, usually you've got a slight rounded edge around the bottom and the top of the board. And it takes your eyes getting a little used to that to be able to look slightly past it line things up. And then another thing about that, about it is getting it flush and holding it while you get the fastener in there. Because fasteners go in, and if it's not lined up and held stably, when you drive that fastener, it can move it slightly. And that is so annoying to get the fastener in there, and then the lines are slightly off after you. So I came to realize I started looking for clamps. Clamps were the obvious answer. Well, surely someone come into this problem, and they cared about accuracy and precision, so someone made a tool. And there's ways to do this. If you're working with people who've been doing this for a few years together, they slap it together. It's right, I'm sure. Some of this new stuff you look at, like if you look around like portable shed places and like and your home improvement stores, and they got the sheds out there. Something that made me feel better about my work is walking around some new constructions, and looking at like those portable sheds and those portable cabins and all those things, and seeing where people, when they drove nails, some of the nails missed and the building was still standing. So it helped me to relax and say, well, these buildings, they're selling these for a lot of money, and I don't see like nationwide the buildings are falling down. So maybe once in a while a nail not going straight into a board isn't the end of the world. Maybe those little human errors, maybe they're not the end of the world. Maybe a flaw here and there, they don't end the world. Maybe it's not worth worrying about if something has a flaw here and there. But something that, like I said, and I had a couple ways that came to my mind to do this by myself. If I had no one to hold this board, if I go swinging a hammer, I'd have to be holding this thing and still be able to muster enough strength in the hammer arm to knock that nail through the board. Now, I could get my drill out and drill a pilot hole through the thing and maybe put a really good timber screw that's meant for framing into the board somewhere, and then then that would basically hold it while I drove nails into it. Maybe I could use a nail gun, because that hits the nail with so much force it slams it in like a bullet. It's not constantly banging on the nail, vibrating everything around. I could use that. I could use the screw after I drilled a pilot hole. A lot of wood nowadays, you take a screw to it on the end, and it'll split the board, so you need to put a pilot hole in it. Sometimes when you drive a nail, it still splits the damn board with the hammer. Sometimes the nail gun splits the board too, so, kind of makes you wonder. But a lot of times it don't, so it's a reliable thing to do. So it's about the only option. Like, this is America. We're not mastering joinery from like the 1300 Scandinavia area, right? We're not mastering Viking building techniques over here. We put it together quick and rip people off on it. Make them devote their life to paying for this damn house. That way they'll keep working and they'll never stop. And that's a shame, because all kinds of cool, mystical, and magical, spiritual things happen when we stop and just rest and sit and be. And my point is, I really hate assembling corners. I find it obnoxious. I don't hate it like, I don't get mad at it. I just find it so fucking obnoxious. Because you have to, like I said, you have to hold it. Every form of everything vibrates this board. It gets loose. And I'm sure if it's like a 32nd or even a 16th, a little off, it's okay. I think I read a long time ago, a lot of places and a lot of books, that when you square something like this, it can be up to a 1/4 inch out of square, and it will not affect the overall thing. That is corner to corner with the tape measure method in a diagonal. And if it's a 1/4 out, you should make it not a 1/4 out, but if it's a 1/4 out at the most, what I understand is you don't have to worry. It's okay. And but you ideally want it nice and square. Like, you want it on the dime, because this is something someone's gonna It might be something someone's going to live in. It might be, who knows, anything. So you'd want it as square as possible. And I imagine on construction jobs, like there's so many people doing different things. Like you contract concrete work out, you contract the brick work out on the foundation, then you get the framers and everything, and all these different people. I'm sure some companies got smart and they use the same people, and those people communicate to each other, so they get used to how each other work. Just, but when you think about it, it's kind of like, if these people are doing this and then it's their part and they go and they've made a mistake, oh God, you've got a headache. I mean, the error goes wrong in one of these different contractor things. It might not be a quick fix. They may take a month to get out there to fix their mistake. Might be the next day. They might say, we fix it, you're right. And they come out there and fix it. But these things can cause delays, I'm sure. And that's a lot of hands touching a house when you think about it. And what I mean by hands is not the labor, literally, it's the different amount of contractors in a lot of projects, like a house. There's a lot of contractors come through there, and at the end of the day, they get a house that's, we hear nightmares like, I paid for this house to be built and the company went bankrupt, and a few months later I can't find them and the house is falling apart. I don't know, man. I'm one of those people. I realize there's billions of people on Earth right now. It is impossible. If you listen to the people who had a bad time, and that's all you listen to, you're going to think everybody has a bad time and does a bad job. And, that's just not true. There's so many people out there. Surely a lot of this stuff goes off without a hitch. Surely a lot of this stuff works out. But you really don't, for some reason, people don't express like gratitude and like, ours came out in the same method, something's going wrong. It's like fear-based living. If the day the world realizes something, that I am who I claim, that I am the one doing what I claim that other person is doing. It is me. I am my own worst enemy. I am who I project that onto. And it's said in this way, like a eureka moment, like I am them. When that dot connects in mass, you see all these identitarian groups, all these collectives that are forming up. The day those groups of people, the day those people realize in that way, it connects that I am who I accuse them of being. The day that connects en masse is the day we have another great enlightenment. It's the day we have another great awakening. These thoughts just started coming to me last night. That means it's coming. I don't know if Jesus is going to come back from the portal in the sky. I don't know if aliens are coming. I don't know if all that stuff is going to happen. And whatever iteration of a great change and event occurring, I do not know. But what I know is there is a great enlightenment right around the corner. And it's waiting to happen. A great awakening is taking place. And when people have woken up out of their, you're tired, their groggy stupor, so to speak, there will be a great enlightenment. There will be, when people realize it was me the entire time. And they feel that connection from the all in the body to the head and all of that. When they realize that and they have that epiphany and that moment, we will see the dawn of a new day. We will have another enlightenment. We will. something I wanted to touch on, since I've been running around in spiritual groups, and I've gone to some events, and I've gone around to a bunch of crystal stores, so to speak, and stuff, and I've gotten a feel for the environment. Some of those places, people were doing some psychedelic things, and you could tell even when they weren't stoned or in that psychedelic, you could tell they had done it, because it just, to me, they seemed out of harmony. They were a little out of balance. They were around the same frequency I was hanging out on at the time, but they seemed different, like altered. And that, what I wanted to bring up is that I'm like kind of a natural type. Okay, now that doesn't mean that I don't ever eat a cheeseburger or something from a fast food restaurant. All right, but my path and the way that I go about it is that I feel like when you hit those states by inducing them with some form of external chemical, a drug or something, right? As we call it, a psychotropic thing, a psychedelic. Now there are some people on this planet who can handle that, and it doesn't knock them off. Those people have a different path. But a lot of people are doing those things, and they are not prepared for the state it's going to induce. They're not ready for that. And when they come down, it lasts for a lifetime. I was listening to some gentleman that I used to talk to whenever I was door dashing, and he, I love that guy. I loved getting an order for that place. I'd have to go in and do a shopping thing. And I loved that guy. We would talk and cut up for a few minutes. And he told me that he used to be like in the military, right? He was in the military during like Vietnam. And it's no secret to anybody, the Vietnamese, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them, did some acid and smoked some everything and all kinds of things. And he was telling me about this instructor he had, a drill sergeant or something. And the drill sergeant was talking to him one day and told him that he had actually done acid before when he was overseas. And whatever they had, he said it was acid. I don't know what they had over there, but his story. And he said that after he had done that acid, he started seeing gremlins, like little goblin creatures, little gremlins. Everyone knows what a gremlin is. And even decades after, he never touched the stuff again. Every once in a while, he would see one hopping around. Some people believe that these things, altered states, can connect us to other dimensions, and those are otherworldly entities. And it's something about the frequency that you become on. You perceive things. You can perceive it. You can perceive what's on your frequency. And it brought me to my point that, like, people who get to those states and induce that type of frequency within themselves, and they're not mentally prepared, they're not all physically prepared, they haven't done the inner work to be able to handle those things, and they just one day, just some teenager overseas getting high on LSD, it can really fuck you up. It can really fuck you up. And if you want to walk around like that, your body, the biochemistry in a human body is capable of producing everything ever. I'm going to tell you a funny story. All this innovation and all these things, most of it, if not all of it, comes from people who practiced hardcore meditation. Einstein was doing it. Nikola Tesla was doing it. Edison, I'm sure, did it a little bit. All these people meditated themselves, and some of them probably did do some wild-ass psychotropic substances, some psychedelics. They did that, and they tapped into another dimension. And they brought what they found there, what they discovered there, what they learned about there, they brought it to this world. Think about this. Look at the smartphones. Look at the thing I'm talking to. Does this thing look worldly to you? This thing come from another dimension, straight up. You don't have to drag it back to the physical world. You just have to know how to do it and use what's in the physical world to conceive it. Because matter comes from spirit. Spirit is the energy. That's the energetic realms, the spirit world, as some people refer to it as. The dimensions of the spirit. And since matter all essentially comes from there, you can create it here using matter. Using like some tree, some plant, all kinds of things. Now, not every great invention and every great innovation has come from that, of course. But when these great thinkers who changed and revolutionized the world we share, the physical reality, so to speak, when they're telling us how important your imagination and your mental faculties are, they know, because they know the miraculous comes from there. That's the gateway to it. Think how trippy that is. You have a thought, a visual thought. There ain't no light in your head to see it, yet you can see it. Just ponder how incredible that is. The phenomenon of being able to see thoughts. A lot of people believe a mental plane is shared between all human beings. All minds are connected. A lot of people believe that the mind is a projector screen. A lot of people believe that it's a gateway. It's a lot of things to an astral realm. Whatever you make it at the end of the day. And what I'm here to say is that if you're on a spiritual path, and you're just getting started, there are a lot of traps out there that the spirit world works through people too. And sometimes it sees great potential and it sticks a trap, a test in front of them, something to prepare and guide them on the way. I believe that there's no way to fail or pass. I believe that a path is a path, and it can be changed. I believe we do have free will. I believe that God is infinitely wise, and God didn't say, "Well, I'm going to book all my hopes and my energy and my everything that they're going to make that choice." God done made 30 different plans for you, regardless of what you done chose to do. The times that you do something He wasn't expecting, the time you do something the divine was not expecting you to do, that's when you discover a glitch in the matrix. Because things have to catch up, probably. But what I'm telling you today is that who am I to tell you what the hell to do with your life and your free will? But if you ask me my opinion, are psychedelics worth exploration? My answer would be no. They're not for me. You know, because I have witnessed and observed how they affect people. And I ain't about that, all right? Because those people are out of harmony, they're out of alignment. It radically does some things to you. And there are people on this planet that can obviously not get knocked out of alignment with the stuff, but I've seen too many people who had that, who got knocked out of alignment and all that stuff, and it's like, that's not for me. I mean, me personally, I am of the opinion that those things, like, if you shortcut, you're bypassing, right? I want the real state of enlightenment personally. And I want the real phenomenon of being a being of light. I want the real. How you get there, I don't fucking know. But God's got a whole spiritual bureaucracy, so to call it and so to speak about it, that he tries to guide you. So you ain't got to know the way. As our friend Rumi, Sufi mystic, a Muslim mystic, a long time ago wrote to us, you ain't got to know the path. You take the first step and start walking, and the path will be revealed. It will appear. And I can't tell you how true that is. I can't tell you how true that is. There's been times when I just start doing something, and I learn as I'm doing it, and all of that stuff. I can sit there and plan meticulously and obsessively think about doing something, and sometimes I still do. And I know all I got to do to stop that is just breathe and kind of expand outward around my crown and breathe, and it'll pass, and I let go of it. But there's times when I really, really want to solve something and understand, how can I do this without any hiccups? How can this work every single time? You know, because if I find a method that I'm confident with, I'll keep doing it. And so with all that stuff said, I'm going to show you what I'm working on, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So, now this wood, I'm going to point something out. It's old, it's decrepit, it's warped. That's why we got a split down here. This pushes in. It can't, new wood, you look at it before you buy it, is what I'm saying. You look through the top, you look and make sure it's not bowed or warped or anything, and then you just check it out at the store. You make sure things are as flat and straight as possible. And then when you get it, because you're going to be in a different environment than the store, if the lumber yard's outside, it might not affect it that much, but you're going to be in a different environment. Probably you might drive 30 to 60 miles away to buy some wood. You're going to bring it somewhere else. The environment's going to be a little bit different. So you can let it acclimate. If you're in like somewhere like Nevada where there's no humidity, you probably don't have to let it acclimate. But acclimate basically means you lay the wood out for a couple days, usually around 10 out in the environment it's going to be in. Try not to let it get soaking wet. But outside in the general area, it acclimates, it moves a little bit, it gets used to it. But truth be told, by the time it gets to the lumber store, it's probably already been through the drying process and all that. So you could probably just start building with it. But this is it. Now, this here is my clamp. Now, I'm going to tell you, I just threw this together, threw a screw in it, and basically then I clamp this board first to this one, but you could do that. And it depends on where your end board and where your nails are. And if you're setting up, if you're building a shed and you want it to face a certain way, this stuff matters a little bit. You know, it just matters because when you put your plywood, when you put your OSB board on it, you're going to have to essentially run these a certain way. Like, okay, so say this was the front of my house, okay? How this is done, that means this plywood's going to be running off of there. You're going to cut it where it's between this rim joist and there'd be another one over there. And so you lay your plywood out a certain way so that you wouldn't put it long ways that way if the joists ran that way. You wouldn't put it long ways. You would put the plywood that way across it, so more of it sits on more of them. It makes it stronger. You wouldn't lay it long ways, though. It's just better to do it that way. Just better to do it that way, but, you know, that's how I do it. I don't think it would matter because your support is like a foot. On mine, it's 12 inches apart. Most people 16, but on mine, I do it 12. And that's a little bit of overkill, but that's fine. You'd put it like that. If you put it this way, I feel better about doing it across the joist. Just seems better that way. So this is my idea of this is a prototype of the clamp. I'm gonna add like I'm gonna add like a. I considered putting like another board that would overlap the line on both sides, and that way, and go up there and then down there, and you slap this thing on there, and then you could use clamps. You could use some bar clamps that were deep throated. I'm sure they make those. I would hope they do. And you would tighten it together, and then I would honestly probably start a screw if I was doing it myself. Yeah, I would probably try to put a screw in the middle. I would position this where I could hit a screw in the center, or as close to it as I could, going into these boards. And I'd drill a pilot hole first, for obvious reasons, and I'd put me one of them big old framing screws straight in the center through these boards. And that would hold it together, and then I would swap over to my nails, because those screws are expensive. And I'd swap over, and I would put my nails in it. You need like a nail roughly every, I think it's 2 inches. I would be using a 2x6. I think these are 2x12s. It might be 2x10s. I'd be using 2x6. And the thing I'm going to point out here is that it works. It will work on new wood. This is old decrepit wood. This side is bent in a little bit, but you can tell where it's flush. It's flush down there. It's not flush here. Now, if I was, this is building something for me that probably wouldn't, well, by the time I drove something in there, this is going to warp even more, because it's not. That's what I was saying. Check out your wood before you buy it, because you're going to have all kinds of stresses with a warped one. And I wouldn't even use a warped one for a rim joist or anything like that. But yeah, and that's essentially it. And whenever I got this like held together, I'd take this off and I'd go to the next corner. I'd go all the way around it. And that's pretty much my solution. Now, I might improve this with some stuff like I just mentioned, some boards like that go around here to kind of shove it together. And that would prevent me from having to twist this or anything. It would all go together, and there'd be more clamping force on it. And I probably could also make something, and I would probably use something a little bit better than that, but that seemed to work pretty good, And to get that middle one started, I might would make a groove so the screw could go straight through here and pass through it. And then I would so I don't have to have clamps with it, I might make it, depending on how long it is. I haven't decided yet. I'd come up here, have it wrap around, then have it go down in here. And then I would be able to tighten it on that side. And it would basically have something like that. As you tighten it, it would push this into the jig. And I have one on both sides. And I don't really need the clamps. And yeah, probably do them closer than this. And yeah, I'd be doing a little bit of altering to the tool. And it's really just to get the corner started. You still have to square it once it's together. This is to help you in assembly if you do things alone. You don't have to. When you conserve your energy, it may take slightly longer, but you're going to be in a better mood. You're going to be in a better mood. You're going to be in a better mood. When I was a mechanic, but I'll show you a floor I did, so you'll know that I got some experience. It's right over there. I'll show it to you. But that's pretty much the idea, and it's still Still kind of in the prototype stage. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have this thing. And another idea I had was for average joists is to make something that's adjustable, because different thicknesses. You might buy your wood from the same home improvement store every time. But every once in a while, some boards are going to be 1.5 inch thick concerning 2x4s, or they're going to be 1 3/4 inch thick. So you need a tool that you could adjust. So something like, I could put something that kind of just sat on top of here, went down, and if the wood thickness increased, I could clamp it, hold it there, it would be wrapped here, and then come over here, and on this side, I would have it where there's a straight guide. So the nail is always straight when you drive it. Now, if you're using a nail gun, that's not going to work out. But some of us, like, what I've found out is that when I use a hand tool or something, it might take longer, but there's less noise. I can be more mindful. I can practice mindfulness and get exercise at the same time. And it's really more of a spiritual practice for me. But a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there, I bet they would love to have tools like that. And as you got better at, say you'd never done it before, if you had some tools that had that guide on it and it kept the joist straight and everything, you could use that and you could develop skill while you're using it. You may not need it one day, but it would be easy to throw things together and it actually be right. And I built this floor right here. This is 2x12s, and I'll go outside and look at the edge, and you guys can see the rim joist. I didn't build this barn. It uses posts, but I did repair this wall and everything. I was planning to have chickens, but I didn't get there. And so, there's my joist. It's like a 2x4. I did use a 2x4 because this was going to be for chickens. This was not going to be for living in or anything. I'd use at least a 2x6 if I was going to be hanging out in it. You want pressure treated ground contact lumber even when it's not going to touch that, because that shit will last you for decades. If you're lucky and in a less humid environment, like say the desert, it'll probably last you way beyond your lifetime. But these are 2x12s on top. These are spaced at about 12 inches, and underneath them, if you look, that's our foundation, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't shifted because nothing's been walking around in here. But that block just looks. I think the one on the bottom is longer, and that's what's creating that illusion. They're not lined up, but that's pretty much. This is pretty much how you do a crawl space. It's not how you should do it for living or something you're going to live in, but it's the basic idea. You have a certain amount of feet that you have spaced these blocks. Now, because this is on a post, these are a little bit further apart. I believe like the rule of thumb is like 5 feet apart. And technically you're supposed to make like footers. What's a footer? It would basically be like a pad underneath your bottom block that's a little bit bigger. And you would put the blocks on them. You're supposed to mortar them together, but if it's yours and you ain't got no building codes, you will probably be fine for life, because the weight of one of these things, structure, is just going to clamp it to the ground. And if it don't, whatever, it's yours. It's your discretion. And so, really, this is a lot further than I'm comfortable with, but I didn't build it. It was just a little barn for chickens and stuff, so, whatever. You'd space them out about every 5 feet, and you have rows of them. But really, I would just make the ground flat under them, put the block on there, tack, make sure the block's level and everything's lined up, and I would keep going. you really gotta like with this stuff, you make a line with like a string, and you would line it up, and along that line you would put your blocks every so many feet, and you want to square around this corner, around corners with that line and everywhere, so everything's straight. Now if you're me, and that shit, that's obnoxious as hell, and I don't care what anyone says. Nowadays, people really do just slop things together. I don't care what anyone tells you. They're not perfectly squaring things. So what I like to do is make like a square, right? Make the little rim joist first, square that on the ground, then walk around, and where the blocks would go, I just like mark out the block, and I work on the block, and that'll get it really, 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 really close to very square. And then you pick your rim joist up and you put it on top of the blocks after they're there. That's pretty much the idea that I like to go with. But this is the floor. This is one of them. I had to cut little notches around the stuff, but this is one of them that I did. This is a pretty nice floor. I hate to see it go to waste. Let's go ahead, chickens. I was going to get rid of this thing too. I was in the process of it and things changed. That's okay, but you can see that sits there, and there's one of our blocks right there, and it sits on top of it. And the floor is really strong. This is probably the strongest thing in this barn. But yeah, all kinds of things. And I think that little jig right there, a few more improvements to it, I think that it's gonna, I think that it would be fantastic. Like, have little built-in clamps on it, have little guides that go up there, then you put it together. You essentially clamp it together. Now, alternative to this is you could put a block in there and clamp about 4, and it would go together, and you could tap it into place. But screw that. I like a tool that you can slap on there, and then when you use the tool correctly, it is as it's supposed to be. That's what I like, is stuff like that. I don't like all this, and I did actually test it too. I drove that nail in it when it was clamped together, and it worked out pretty good. The board is like warped, as I mentioned, so there's a little bit out of there and at the bottom. But is that going to affect us if we're building something? No. Because it's the board. It's the cuts on it and everything. I kind of just was playing around. I was tinkering with it, so I didn't take as much caution as I should have with the cuts, but whatever. It works. And it would work in real time. I've seen worse, and shit's still standing to this day that I saw. Yeah. So I have to do a little bit more work to the thing. Probably get some wood that's thicker than that wood or something. If I get some wood glue, we could probably make something really good. That wood glue's strong. It's probably stronger than a nail going in the board, to be honest with you. So if I cut up some more like little strips of wood, I can probably improve that to the point where it's a pretty good prototype. Put the skill of a professional in the do-it-yourselfer's hands, right? I think that would make some money. Well, that is what I have to say today, so have a good day, and hope everything goes your way.